opposed? The ayes have it, and that motion passes. Next is patron comments. During patron comments, citizens may address the Board of Education concerning agenda items. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes, and the patron comment period is limited to 30 minutes total. Combining time or giving your time to someone else to speak is not allowed. Only one speaker is allowed at the podium or the chair at one time. Please note that at the board's discretion, the board or superintendent may respond immediately to an issue raised during patron comments for clarification. However, our general practice is to respond to the comment at a later time via phone call or written message if a response is needed. We have a table with a microphone ready so both the board and the audience may hear the patron comments clearly. If anyone who has submitted a comment card does not get the opportunity to speak, please know that you also have the opportunity to submit your comments in writing to the board at any time. The board appreciates that you have taken the time to come this evening, and we value both your input and your perspective. For your convenience, our 3-minute time clock is ready. There it is. And tonight we have Sally Nichols. Thank you, Sally.
Or I can just talk loudly. Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for allowing us this opportunity. My name is Sally Nickel. I am a Rockwood parent in the Marquette Quadrant. Use she, her pronouns. And I wanted to speak briefly tonight on 8.02, the demographic study, and 8.03, the CSIP update. With regards to the demographic study that we did, and it's a little bit awkward doing the patron comment before they've done it, but it is what it is. I did take a look at the presentation, and 2 things. I wanted to commend the decision makers who suggested and went forward with having this done. The amount of data that is in that presentation is incredibly impressive. The depth that it went to and the projections clearly is well researched and takes into many different factors. So I appreciate that this will be a very data-driven resource for making decisions for the future of our district. I also wanted to commend the agency, and I'm sorry I didn't write down their name, but those charts were gorgeous. They were really easy to understand, a lot of information packed in them, but they're really well formatted and really clear to understand, and I look forward to their presentation. For 8.03, the CSIP and strategic plan, as someone who attended from the kickoff meeting and the community meetings and parent of a student who served on the committee, I wanted to say thank you. It was a really incredible process to be able to be a part of. Really appreciate all of the information and the effort put in by so many people to prepare those presentations and process everything. Thank you for that so very much. Really excited for the next 5 years. Wanted to make a request as I think about where I'm going to be 5 years from now, which will no longer be a parent. And I think about where we were 5 years ago. I would like to ask that if we could have a method where we could provide some feedback on the process and have that housed somewhere that 5 years from now, whomever is working on the new one is able to access. Because hopefully we're much less tumultuous than the last 5 years, but there will be new faces. So I'd like to have that method. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent comments.
Thank you, President Midget. Earlier this evening, the Board of Education approved the hiring of Amy Boskin as the new assistant principal at Eureka High School and Dr. Colette Higgins as our new Director of Educational Access. They both will begin on July 1st. Amy is replacing Buddy Soderman, who has been named our new Director of Research, Evaluation, and Assessment, and Colette is replacing Dr. Cassandra Suggs, who has accepted a position outside of the district. Amy joins us after 20 years with the Parkway School District. She spent the past 2 years teaching marketing at Parkway South High School. Before that, she was the coordinator of career and technical education, global studies, and world languages for the district for 8 years. Her career at Parkway began with 10 years of teaching business and marketing. During that time, she also served as an A+ schools coordinator for 5 years. Amy earned her Bachelor's of Arts in Marketing from Webster University, her Master's of Arts in Teaching from Lindenwood University, and her Master's of Arts in Educational Administration from Southwest Baptist University. Currently, Colette serves as the Multi-Tiered Systems of Support, MTSS, coordinator for the Ferguson-Florissant School District, a position she has held for the past 4 years. Prior to that, she served as a data strategist for the district for 5 years. Colette also has 3 years of experience as an instructional coach at the middle schools and the high school levels as well, and she did that in a charter school in New York. Her teaching experience includes 14 years as an English language learner and English language arts, as well as social studies teacher, all three actually of which were in New York and also in the state of Missouri. Colette has engaged very actively in both MTSS and PBIS research through the University of Missouri and is currently serving on the DESE MSIP 6 Missouri Accreditation Committee. She earned her Bachelor's of Arts in History/Political Science and her Master's of Arts in Teaching, which was in Social Studies, from Fordham University. She earned a Master's of Science in Educational Leadership and Supervision from Canisius College and a doctorate in Educational Administration from Lindenwood University. Please help me in welcoming both Amy and Colette to the Rockwood School District. So this is not only a comment that's meant for this body, being the Board of Education or those that are in attendance right now, but it's also for our community. And what I wanted to do at this point in time was draw our community's attention to the newly designed and just updated Proposition 3 website. This can be found on prop3.rsdmo.org. If you visit this site, you will find an overview of what Proposition 3 means for the future of the Rockwood School District, as well as the presentations that were shared with the community and frequently asked questions. You will also find a list of priority projects for Prop 3, funds at each school, and those that are specifically tied to safety, technology, and facilities projects that are planned for 2025 as well as 2026, as well as those individual project costs. We hope you will take some time to familiarize yourself with the site as we strive to keep our promise of being both fiscally responsible and transparent, not only to our staff, but to all of our stakeholders in our community. The community put trust via the vote, and we want to make sure we are clearly sharing what we in fact have planned in place. I would also like to commend our facilities, finance, and technology, as well as our communications team, for their hard work in updating the site with a true wealth of information that is easily navigated. So please take some time, familiarize yourself with it. Babbler, Chesterfield, and Eureka Elementary Schools, as well as Selvage Middle School, are among 71 nationally and 13 in the state of Missouri certified schools that have been named National Schools of Character by character.org. This program recognizes schools that demonstrate a focus on character development that has positively impacted academic achievement, student behavior, and ultimately school climate. This is the first time Eureka Elementary has earned the National School of Character designation. It's the second time for Babbler and the third time for Selvage Middle School, and it's the fourth time for Chesterfield Elementary School. That is Chesterfield being the only school in the state to have earned this national distinction 4 times. Congratulations to each and every one of these schools, their respective students, staff members, families, and ultimately the communities on this very well-deserved recognition and for your dedication to keep character at the very forefront of what you do. Let's give them a round of applause. Congratulations. And my last set of comments, at least for this portion of the board meeting, just remind us that on May 23rd, that was the last day of school for the 2024-25 school year in the Rockwood School District. I won't even mention when the school year starts for 25-26. It's just too early, so we'll hold off on that for now. All around the district, students, staff, just those that are in true support, ended yet another great school year with hugs, high fives, waves, and most definitely well wishes. I wanted to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to our community for yet another fantastic school year here in the Rockwood School District, and I hope that each and every one of all of us have a safe, fun, and relaxing summer. So if you would, let's take a moment just to view this short video of some scenes from the last day of school, and this will be from Kellison Elementary School. Again, enjoy the summer. That's all I have, President Medvedev. Thank you.
Board comments.
I have a couple of things, and wanted to jump in because my first one goes right along with what Dr. Kane just talked about. I've experienced a lot of last days of school in general, and a lot of them have been in Rockwood. A lot of them have even been last days where my own children were ending a school year. But this was my first year to experience a last day of school for a grandchild. And those of you who are grandparents know that being a grandparent is very different than being a parent in a very positive way that my kids take offense to when I say that. But it occurs to me, well, first of all, a shout out to Eureka Elementary, because that's where my grandson Weston just finished kindergarten, had just a fabulous year. I can't say enough good things about Eureka as a school. But it occurred to me as I went to the kindergarten graduation, to the field day, all the end of the year stuff, times 31. That's the amount of time and effort that's going into all of these ending the year on a high note for our students is just incredible. At a time when the staff has, they're right at the finish line. I mean, each year is a long race. It's kind of a marathon. And I just so appreciate the effort of all the staff of the Rockwood School District for making the end of the year, when they are ready to be finished themselves, so special for our students. So shout out to really all the staff of all of the schools for the effort they put into the end of the year. The next thing is specifically about Green Pines Elementary, but I know that similar things to this happen all the time across the district, most of which we probably never even know about. But it happens that I have a personal connection with this particular family of a Green Pine student, and so I saw a post that this parent put on Facebook, and as I read it, I thought this needs to be a shout out. So I contacted her and asked if it was okay if I shared this, and she even said I could share the student's name. So I'm just going to read this if that's okay. This parent says, "I've said it before, but I love Green Pines Elementary. They truly love and care about my kids, even when they are tough and hard to handle." These are some kids that have some challenges dealing with school things. There was a picture of a stuffed elephant, and it said, "Meet Tom the elephant. Dom, the son, fell in love with him this spring. Right before school ended, he found him in a closet while they were packing up for the end of the school year, and he was very upset because Tom can't be in a closet, and he, Dom, has to go to summer school. With some quick thinking and persuasion, the principal was put in charge of babysitting Tom until the assistant principal could transport him over to summer school at Babler Elementary. I knew this was the plan, but I was a little nervous if something didn't work out, as Dom has told me several times a day since school ended that Tom would be at summer school. And if Tom isn't there, I know the crying and tantrums that will happen. But yesterday, I received this sweet picture, the one I mentioned before, and a message from his teacher that Tom found himself in a Green Pines Gator shirt, and the assistant principal safely drove him to Babler, seatbelt on, I might add, so he's ready for summer school on Monday. Also pictured was Dom when I showed him the picture and read him the message, and Dom had a smile from ear to ear. We are now ready for summer school on Monday. So a shout out to that administrative team at Green Pines, and also to all of the administrators that go above and beyond to make everything special for our students.
And I'd like to make a comment. Although we may be into summer, and wanting to relax, we have many of our students who are still competing in state finals, competitions, national and state. We just want to give a shout out to all of those teams and to coaches and parents that are supporting them, and we wish them luck and goodwill over the summer.
I just want to extend thoughts and prayers to the 15 families that were impacted by the tornadoes. If you are looking at a way to support those families, Rockwood Gives Back is an amazing spot that's helping out those families. And unfortunately, last night, I know it hit very near to Rockwood Valley, and there was some damage along 109 as well. So I don't know if we have any families impacted there, but it's just an amazing opportunity to help support those families.
Anyone else? If not, we will move on to 7.01, and the motion is to approve the consent agenda items as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'd like to pull out item 718. It's the public gifts, and make acknowledgement that we have several gifts tonight to be recognized. Let's see the print. First of all, the Rockwood Summit High School track and field boosters made a sizable donation for cover the expenses of the track team's expenses for this year. And Marquette PTO made a considerable donation to purchase furniture for the school. And then an individual, Odette Blaylock, who made a random act of kindness earmarked for lunch accounts for the school beginning for the Rockwood Summit High School football team and players. And again, we are so appreciative of our community that step up, and our parents, just to help our students in everything that they do, both academically and across the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it, and that motion passes. On to the other agenda items. First one is 8.01, and it is legislative update. Dr. Chris Gaines will be joining us and giving us a review and update of what's happening.
Well, good evening and happy Thursday. It's nice to be here again. Good to see everyone. We wrapped up the legislative session, the regular session, May 16th, and overall, it was a pretty decent session for schools in general. You know, when I was here last year, I kind of said 2024 was a record legislative session in terms of number of bills filed. Yeah, we beat that this year, right? It was even more, a lot of new lawmakers filing a lot of things. And if you look across the entire landscape of laws or bills that are filed, so much impacts schools, whether it's something direct to education or anything property tax wise is going to impact schools, or state income tax or property assessments. All of those are going to impact schools in some way. And for this session, we had not just a new governor, but we had a new Speaker of the House, as well as a new leadership in the Senate. So that made it a little bit interesting. It's going to be see how everybody played nice or not so nice, and how everything went. But in terms of things that passed, obviously the budget, and in the Senate, funds were added to take the state adequacy target up to the calculated amount. Governor Kehoe had not recommended that amount, and based on his comments Monday at the Formula Modernization Task Force kickoff meeting, I would say that we're not going to be at 7145 by the end of the year. Where we end up, don't know where that's going to be. Don't know if he'll withhold the full 300 million to take it back to his recommendation, but there's serious doubt that the full 300 million will be there to reach the 7145. Transportation was fully funded again this year, so that's a positive. And then Prop C, it's just buy more stuff so we get sales tax, and then we can distribute that to schools, right? So we'll just get what's received on a per pupil basis across the state. So also with budget, we still have the lingering and Senate Bill 190 and cleanup of 756 that has not been implemented yet, but will be implemented this year, which was the senior property tax freeze. So the application period ends at the end of this month. The last time I talked to the county revenue director, there were some 50,000 applications. Not all of those will be approved, if you will. May not meet the criteria in terms of age or home ownership or didn't supply paperwork, kind of whatever. But sadly, districts will be 5 months into the budget year before they know what the impact of that's going to be. We have seen the Director of Revenue's kind of estimates of what he thinks school districts will be impacted, and that's roughly $180 million over 10 years is his estimate. But we'll start to have a better understanding in November of impacts. And there's also this notion of still are we going to have lawsuits forthcoming around those, both from a taxing jurisdiction side as well as a taxpayer side. We had some miscellaneous stuff pass as well. There's a $50 million appropriation for Missouri Scholars, the voucher program, tuition tax credit voucher program. That's administered by the Treasurer's Office, so it's not in the education budget, it's in the Treasurer's Office budget. And then Senate Bill 63, I kind of miscellaneous because it was kind of almost a single topic piece in terms of homeschool participation or ability to try out. The language started out as participation but did get changed to trying out. So we'll probably see a number of homeschool students trying out for athletic teams across the state come the fall. And then the big bill, right? Last year we talked about Senate Bill 727, which had tons and tons of stuff in it, and so does Senate Bill 68. Senate Bill 68 originally started out as what was commonly kind of termed the cell phone bill, and then got a little bit added in the Senate, got incredibly loaded up in House committee, got loaded up more on the House floor, and then maybe a little bit more in conference. But probably the cell phone piece is kind of the biggest part of that probably, and is going to put probably has the most immediate impact for schools in terms of you gotta have a policy ready when school starts, right? So there's not a big amount of time to do that, but policy's got some things that it has to have in it. Basically, can't have your cell phone out. You have to have disciplinary measures in there, and then there are a ton of exceptions that you have to think about and put in that policy. However, this particular piece of the law does expire. So it's a 7-year trial, and I guess we'll see how it goes and go from there. Then there's just a ton of smaller little pieces in the bill. There were some revisions of some get the lead out stuff that schools have been dealing with for a number of years, a recount of how students get accounted for attendance. There's a requirement to have emergency response plans, but within that, the challenge for districts is this annual site assessment of every facility. So that may be a challenge for folks. You have to have cardiac emergency response plans, have to have AEDs seemingly almost everywhere. You have to be able to get to one and back to where it's needed within 3 minutes. So, however, the requirement around AEDs is subject to appropriation, and nothing was appropriated for them. So, but training and certification of employees is still there. There's kind of a number of things in Senate Bill 68 that require training of employees, including stop the bleed kits. That will be another piece. Again, bleeding control kits and their purchase is subject to appropriation, and there was no appropriation. Probably one of the other thing that will impact everybody kind of down the line, and could impact MSIP if it changes up around, this notion of adding a 5th level of performance on the MAP test of grade level equivalence. You have to have a school safety coordinator. I'm sure you already have. Anti-intruder locks on all interior doors. Again, subject to appropriation. Nothing was appropriated. But the policies to control building access, that's going to be there. There going to be some reporting to DESE on some things, and DESE will have a database of that, around this notion of credible threats. As we started last school year, there was a lot around the swatting and stuff that's not credible, but man, it takes up a lot of time for districts, certainly, as well as law enforcement partners. Thing around students who are active military don't have to finish the required number of practices before competing, which is really a condition of students who may be joining the armed forces and doing basic training during the summer leading up to practices starting. And if there's a conflict there, it kind of covers that. Some other pieces that are not that big a deal. Virtual assessments may be interesting as virtual students attending a virtual school can now take their MAP test virtually and not have to go to a physical location to take it. Stuff around kindergarten, the 169-day calendar fix got put in. There was some confusion over that from last year. There was, we'll call it open enrollment light. Many districts already allowed employees, children to attend their district. Now that's in the law and kind of required for everybody. You can't have zero discipline policy. This one, it's hard to wrap your head around how you're going to train every employee for CPR. And what does that exactly mean? At least it didn't say certified, because I don't think the capacity is out there to certify probably everybody. I know Rockwood was part of a group of districts that have been having conversations around recovery high schools, and now that may be a possibility for magnet private or charters or a combination thereof. I've seen the charter application for a recovery high school. We'll see where that lands, and then various kind of other things kind of in there. And then stuff around reading instruction, got to do active shooter training, so there's another thing you got to train people for. Some things around IB exams for specific for IB schools, and then we made it a little bit easier around bus drivers. So that was kind of all the session. So, you know, we did okay on the budget side. We were able to push back on open enrollment. There's some things in Senate Bill 68 we don't like, but overall, it's not horribly bad. So we were feeling really, really good until last night. During the special session that the Governor Kehoe had called around trying to keep the chiefs, for lack of a better phrase, there was some deal making. We kind of got some hints over the weekend that a senator or two were going to push for some level of tax relief to be at part of the package. That started shaping up late yesterday afternoon and into the evening. And what ended up passing was this notion of setting 3 kind of categories of counties, if you will. You know, I had Senate Bill 190 in there around the senior property tax freeze. Well, this freezes for all real property or residential property for those folks who own their homes. So the 3 types of counties then, or groups of counties, are those that will have a complete freeze. So property values will go up. Assessments will still take place. The tax bill will not change. Right? So it's this notion of a credit, but nobody's paying the credit. So that will, if you're in a 0 county, which part of Rockwood is in Jefferson will be a 0 county. Residential taxes coming out of Jefferson County will not increase under 0 county. I mean, you'll get new construction and improvements. You get changes in commercial property, anything that moves from ag to residential, but otherwise it's frozen. Then there are 5% counties. So they can go up, but no more than 5%, or the CPI, whichever is greater, which is kind of, you know, we've kind of got the CPI piece now. And then there are exempt counties. So this doesn't apply. Their assessed values can continue to go up. So all of that kind of landed and finished up about 2:30 last night in the Senate. And then, or I guess this morning, and then so it'll go to the House next week. It's anticipated that it's likely to pass the House, and then kind of going back to the previous slide around Senate Bill 190 and lawsuits. Yeah, we're pretty sure there'll be lawsuits on this one too, right? So that's kind of a lot. I apologize for taking a little bit of time, but I'd be happy to answer or attempt to answer any questions you might have.
I just want to thank you. I think you inspired us last year to get an advocacy committee really rolling. as a board, so thank you for that. I do have a quick question about Senate Bill 63, and you might not be able to answer this, Dr. Kane, I might have to defer to you, but how do we, there's so many policies for attendance, grades, discipline when it comes to athletics. Will that come down from Misha? Are they going to have to determine it? Are school boards going to have to develop policies for homeschool students playing athletics? Is that going to impact us?
So it will impact you,
Right.
but, so, in the current state, your high school principals sign off on whether students are eligible or not. The parents are kind of signing off on whether or not a homeschool student is eligible.
Okay.
So it's whatever grades they're getting in the homeschool or whatever. Now, the worry of some is, hey, my grades aren't great. I want to go to homeschool, then I can keep participating. You have to have kind of a 365 days out. So it's not like you go, okay, my report card doesn't look good. I'm going to go homeschool and I'm going to play on Friday. That's not going to work.
And does the homeschooler have to participate in athletics in the district they reside in? Do you know the answer to that?
We believe so, but we'll see how that plays out.
I'm just thinking
I
big
think-
picture, St.
yes.
Louis athletics, so, okay, thank you.
And you said they switched it to rather than to participate, to be able to try out?
To try out, yes.
Going to our special session, you didn't specifically mention it. I think I know the answer, but I thought I'd ask anyway. You said Jefferson County was in a complete freeze county. What's St. Louis County in?
St. Louis County is exempt.
Exempt.
So the whole senior tax freeze and then this is kind of confusing in that assessments still go up.
Mhm.
It's the tax bill where the credit occurs. So what this does is say, okay, if your assessed value goes up 20%, your tax bill is going up 0. Right? Whereas before, there's not a complex calculation, but it's a calculation, and districts would roll back their tax rates. So if you look at almost all the counties have a single tax rate. So and you have to assume that you're getting all that money off the assessed value, which is going to drive tax rates down by Hancock. So if you're in a single tax rate district or county, then every other taxpayer is going to benefit from those lower tax rates caused by that. So
Wouldn't that, to put it in just common terms, be a reduction in resources and budget for us?
oh,
I
absolutely.
mean, that's the bottom line.
Yeah. I mean, it's
It's going to hit our
in a
budget.
0 county, it has the potential to. So Missouri, and I know some of you have seen this in some presentations that we've done to some groups this year. Missouri says that roughly 38% of revenues comes from the state. Now that varies greatly from district to district, but that's the number they say. But to calculate that number, what they're doing is taking, well, what's the percent at Rockwood? What's the percent at Valley Park? What's this percent in Blue Eye and Lee Summit, everywhere, and just averaging those. And so it's really skewed because of the number of small districts. So we took a look at what is the total revenue that schools receive across the state. And what we found was when we looked at all revenue received, the amount that the state provides is 25%. And locals are providing about 50. So what this has done or will do is cut off the largest revenue stream schools have.
Dr. Gaines, thanks for bringing life to the party. But
You're welcome.
Silence.
I do think this is like the ink is still wet on this, and so interpretation is going to be important. I have no idea. I don't think Dr. Gaines does either in terms of what legal steps and challenges are in front of us. But a already complex and fractious landscape has only become more complex and more fractious, and we will most definitely keep you all in the loop as we learn more.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Y'all have a good evening.
And I failed to say that Dr. Gaines is the CEO at Ed Plus. This is going into your second year?
It is.
Yes.
It is. Finishing my second.
Finishing your second year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the demographic study presentation, and Cindy's going to start us with that.
As
Cindy Boyes.
As Cindy heads to presentation, I wanted to share a couple of things. Since this has been posted, for those that have had interest in being aware of what is embedded within the demographic study, I do believe that we have one of two choices. And we really can use this as an opportunity to, one, as Ms. Nichols shared, to level set in terms of some numbers, but two, for us to really be able to take this study to, as we move forward, really be able to use this as an ability to reimagine some opportunities, not only for spaces, but most importantly for students within the Rockwood School District. I know we, as I said earlier, we're headed into the summer, and I know that every once in a while, there are all these rumors that for some reason they happen to in fact have some grounding and gain some momentum in the Rockwood School District. So before a single number is shared, I will flat out let this Board of Education know that the strongest advice I would have is that we not look at closing any comprehensive elementary, middle, or high school in the Rockwood School District. We know at this point in time, we're not looking at doing any of that at this point in time. The numbers give us an idea of what is happening. I think it's important that we continue to look at the numbers as we move forward as a school district. But I do think it allows us to have an opportunity to be very open in terms of maybe programs move, but that doesn't mean that buildings are in fact closing at this point in time. It gives us an opportunity to reimagine and do some things that look different. I will throw out an example of something, and it's services for gifted students within our school district. And our cut score is different than what happens across the state. It's a perfect opportunity for us to open up the door to meet the needs of more students as we continue to march toward the mission statement of the Rockwood School District. And so it's all about our mindset. We have an ample opportunity to not panic by any stretch, but truly reimagine what we can continue to do to meet the needs of students in our district. With that, Cindy.
Good evening. I'd like to introduce Lauren Woods and Cameron Arsenault, who are both project managers with MGT, the firm that we engaged to perform a demographic study for our district. We began gathering our student building and other data from the district last fall, and they began studying our district and the other data that you'll see how it works into their forecasts. I want to clarify one of the terms that you'll hear in their presentation tonight, and that is open enrollment. So open enrollment means different things in different parts of the country. And here in Missouri, we tend to think about the recently proposed legislation regarding open enrollment that did not pass this year. But in this study, what it means for our student population is the students who are not attending their resident schools. So it includes our students who come to work with their parents, both certified and non-certified staff. It includes our VIC students. It includes people who are participating in the limited school choice program that we have here in the district. So I just wanted to clarify that they're going to say open enrollment, that's fine. We know what it means now. Okay, you guys take it away.
Hey, good evening. Hey, thanks for having us out. It wasn't just Cameron and I on the project. We had Morgan Runyon. She would have been here. She couldn't be here because she couldn't travel. Those things happen. Rob Tanner, same situation. Team of people helped create the content and the information for the study. The work accomplished, one, working with your staff to make sure that we have the correct information, both spatially and tabularly. What we run into a lot of times when we're working with districts for the first time, the discovery of the student numbers. I have an accounting background, so I go in and I'll be looking at, does this align with what was reported? So you all, staff were provided an accounting to sign off on, yeah, this matches up with what was reported the last 4 years. That's what we need to know, because the foundation of the study is student population, your kids that are enrolled in your campuses. The other part, knowing that we have the correct zones, making sure that we have those identified, because we're going to talk about two different things. We're talking about your resident student population, kids that are enrolled living inside the district, and also the enrollment. Because Cindy needs to know that information for other things besides facility planning. She needs to know things about hiring for next year. What are the trends that we're seeing within the enrollment, right? So we go over two different ways. We're looking at the population and IDing. You're going to see examples of it, of IDing areas, hot spots of growth in the area that aren't identified in enrollment numbers. And we'll talk about that. When we get to those points, we'll make a point. We're talking about resident numbers. We're talking about enrollment numbers. So, and then the best part about this is we're not sitting back behind hiding in cubicles. We come out and we're driving your district. Cameron spent several days out here earlier in the process. We came out once to visit, but another time to actually do the development drive. Really, it's one thing to get the tabular information. It's another thing to drive up and make sure that developer is actually saying the truth. Hey, we're building this many homes. Well, Cameron's been doing this long enough, and I've been doing this long enough. We drive up on a place, we can tell you how many homes are actually being built, not just based off of the physical rooftops, but also activity. You just after me, I've been doing it for over 3 decades. Cameron's kind of new to this, but being trained, and he and I have been working a lot together for the last 3 years in this type of research. And so it makes it that much effective when we're talking to you all, that we can actually talk to specifics within your district. Understanding that where the kids live, the zones, understanding the housing development, and then bringing the other non-geography related information like births, and then understanding, okay, what type of how many kids are we expecting from homes? And so we have to talk to the county and get the parcel information, the ID, what homes have been built over the last 5 years that represent new homes being built now. It gives us the student generation, those other things. It's just not hey, look at the formula, look how great it is, and walk out. We're going to walk through this whole process. And I appreciate the comments earlier. That makes us feel really happy when inside, I'm going to share that with our staff, when the public comment says, we enjoyed the maps and the charts, so we know there's more nerds out here that like that stuff. But the other part is, we're making it clear enough that it's not some black box, and that's part of this process. It's not a black box. We're going to tell you how the cake's made. It's not a pound cake. Develop resident forecasts, grade, attendance areas. That's the end result. These charts and things that everybody likes. It takes all this. 85-90% of the study is all data research and building that. The rest of the stuff is eye candy. I mean, Cindy and I can sit in front of the tables all day and start talking about it, but taking those tables and making the charts and making the maps, that's the stuff that helps get the point across, giving spatial relationships to the outcome. Okay, so there's no trick to this. It's right here. This is the chart. There's no fancy algorithm. There's no fancy algebra was not involved either. There's students here. don't worry, regular math. We're dealing with 3 factors. First, help us understand future kids at the lower grades, because we have no idea how many kindergartners there are you can kind of make a guess based off of averages over the last several years, but the average is showing decline. You start looking at the birth statistics, it starts giving you a better idea. Oh, that's why it's averaging a decline the last several years, because there's a decline or a drop in births within the area. We see the word mobility there. We're not talking about mobility within the school year like we see with apartments and things and like urban school districts. This is mobility about from year to year within a neighborhood, showing the shifts of populations that are occurring within the district. And there's some unique things that are happening. Some stuff's come out in the news the last couple of weeks that Cameron might talk about. But we're going to show you some indicators where there's established neighborhoods, where there's indication of growth in established neighborhoods with the current populations, which is very cool. Though the outcome, if you've read ahead of the novel, skipped ahead, we know that there's a decline occurring in the district. Some of you guys might have cheated and looked ahead. That's what's happening. What do you always say? Or foreshadow all the time. That's a deliberate foreshadow. The other part is student yield factors, student generation rates. Those are things that help us figure out, okay, there are 3,000 homes being built in the district. Well, how many kids should we expect from that? Years ago, someone would say, oh, 3,000 kids. Well, this is not the 1950s. Typically in suburban school district, you're seeing about between a 40 to 45% on average coming out from, so for every home built, you get a 0.45 kid, or a half a kid. I'll round up. What's a half a kid amongst friends? But when you have 3,000 homes, now you have 1,500 kids. Everybody's going, oh my God, there's 3,000 homes. It's happening all at once. It's not happening all at once. It's happening over a period of 7 to 8 to 12 years in some cases. And so Cameron and Morgan were able to go through and talk to developers, Cameron driving the development, and he's able to say, okay, this is kicking off. They start off slow and they'll ramp up, and they're projected to end in about 5 years. And so you apply how many homes to the birth rates based off of each year, and that puts in the calculation. Again, we're telling you how to do this. Sorry, the secret's out. Bring all that stuff together, that gives you the forecast. The cool thing about this, and I'll say cool because we're dealing with maps, that's where we have our fun, is that we're able then to start looking at the neighborhood level and show you these are the growth areas in the district, here are the declines in the district, because it allows you all to make those data-centric decisions that help kind of ID and efforts for your future plans and curriculum. Student data analysis. I touched on this earlier. We verify the kids, so we make sure the kids are signing. The kids are the right counts. We're using the right student counts for each part of this process. That gets signed off by you all. We geocode the kids. Geocoding means placing the kids on the earth related to their house, where they live. On the right is an example of study areas. Those individual numbers aren't student numbers. That's an example of a unique ID for that neighborhood. Your district is made up of 457 separate study areas. A study area can represent a zip code, elementary, middle, and high school. It can represent anything that is non-school related. Whatever you want to look at, we can then start assigning the study areas that what's relevant to that. Anyway, it makes the GIS, building the data, putting a little more in-depth research and adding more to this, makes the GIS output more effective for us. Everybody likes maps? Okay, well, it's just me? Okay.
I used to teach geography.
You used to teach geography. They still have geography here?
Yeah.
Okay. They don't have it in Texas. You have to take it in separate sections now. That's another story. Anyway, student density. What's student density? It's one thing to put the dots on the map and say, well, there's kids everywhere that are attending your school system. There are kids that are way outside the district boundary. But when you look at a density map, you turn on the density of the geocoded kids, you can clearly identify where the hot spots are within the district. And most of you all familiar with your area, you already know there are a lot of kids there. If you overlaid this with like the elementary areas and stuff, you're going to go, oh wow, that makes sense. That's why those elementary zones are a lot more small. They're relevant to the population of the community. That's why they're smaller, because of the density. Okay, here's Cindy. This is our attendance matrix. She mentioned we'll use the term open enrollment. We refer to it as open enrollment report in other parts of the country. An attendance matrix is that. It's just telling you where kids are enrolled, the column up and down, and where they live. So what's a good one we want to use? Eureka is a good one. In this example, Eureka Elementary, your grandson goes to school there, right? Eureka? Yeah. Eureka Elementary, 475 kids live in that boundary. Now, if you follow that line across, you can start seeing the kids that live in Eureka, what other campuses are they attending. Is that kind of cool? You can see like 13 of them that live there are enrolled at Blevins. In the kids that are enrolled and living in the area, there's 427. Now, if you follow that all the way down, there's 519 kids total that are enrolled there. That includes kids that are inter-district, some kids that are not geocoded. Typically, those are, you have a kid evento or kids that are under protection that don't have their records released. That happens in a lot of districts. And then you have the VIC kids. The VIC kids is a separate population of kids that are attending from outside the district. Everybody pretty good on this, right? I like this report as soon as we geocode kids, as soon as we can verify the attendance areas, because this helps drive other conversations.
Yes.
Once you get this information shared to others within the district, you can start having those discussions, making sure, one, are there any outliers in the numbers that would cause us to cause alarm? And a lot of times it helps identify maybe we don't have the boundary right. It needs to move over one street. So what are the other benefits of doing this? Well, you can start looking at other things, the comparison analysis of utilization to resident and enrollment. So we'll go back to Eureka's case. Eureka's case, if all the kids that attended there, went to school or lived there, attended there, 475, the utilization would be about almost 88%. But we have an enrollment, right? We have more kids enrolled there from outside the district, things like that. And that happens. And so the utilization with full enrollment is a little bit, is 96%. So this helps us as planners within the district or the administration, execs within the administration, start IDing areas. Okay, we're at really good numbers for utilization. You know, you don't want to be too low, but you definitely don't want to be too high. And in most cases, someone will ask me, hey, what's too low? You know, I was working with a district in Illinois. They had several elementaries that were in the 35 utilization, 40 utilization. And I said, boy, those schools are really under enrolled. It turned out that they had built schools in a community that they thought was going to have this growth happen. No one bothered to discuss with the planning department from the county that all the properties were built on 2 to 4 acre parcels, and they were on septic and not sewer. And so there was never going to have the density that they were expecting. So this helps us kind of go through that process and work through those questions, because I wouldn't know that until we geocode the kids and see the enrollment. Same thing holds true with middle school. We do the same thing with middle schools, same thing with high schools. You have geography, you have kids that are enrolled in different programs, attending different campuses. This is very common. We talk about the forecast, the factors that go in the forecast. We're looking at births within the area to help us understand these are the kids that were born 5 years ago. Typically, that's what you could expect showing up to campus 5 years later for kindergarten. You can see the color that's blue. Cameron, right?
Yes.
Cameron, the color is blue. It is below 100. So a growth district is +1 above 100, right? Just like fertility rates. Your district is in decline with regards to births. Now, part of this is a national trend. Another part is, on this next slide, a little bit more concerning is a comparison with the U.S. and in the state of Missouri. The state is fallen below the national trend of lower births, where the national trend has been about 3 to 3.5% decline each year since 2016. Well, for some reason, the state has declined even more. Something that came out in the news recently, I don't know it specifically, but 2 of the towns that are located in your district are actually, what was it, Cam? They were listed as 2 of the areas of decline in their study, which is interesting because we'll go to the next step. The mobility number shows, though there's some decline with this, you do have some inward movement to certain parts of your district. Not good stuff, but you following those trends, they're following exactly what's happening nationally. It's just that your state is a little bit lower than the national average. Doing a presentation on this next week for a national conference. This is not uncommon. There's only a handful of states that are actually above that, and it has to do with inward migration to the state, like Florida, Texas. You have physical movement of people. It's helping keep that above the line. But these are the fertility numbers comparisons. That means if you're looking now as a statistician, you're looking at the fertility numbers. We're well below 1. We're 15 points below 1, which means it's going to be generations if we ever are going to return to any positive growth. And fun fact, the only place that shows positive growth in the next 50 years is the continent of Africa. Even the Western Hemisphere is in decline. So, inward migration, fantastic. It ain't going to affect this. Sorry. But good news. Chesterfield is a great example of what I was talking about earlier. We do this mobility study looking at existing neighborhoods, not the neighborhoods that have houses being built, because Cameron's already taken that into an equation. We're looking at areas that are built neighborhoods and what is happening within that area. And there's a good example is Chesterfield is blue, positive. It's showing in the younger grades a growth, inward growth into that neighborhood. Same thing with several of the other elementary areas. In fact, that's a trend in your district. That's a good thing to have. There are other districts that we're in where you'll see like that blip where the kids are showing up after first grade, they were at parochial school, and then it starts to turn negative again. This is actually really good. That's one of the positives from this study. Student yield factors. It's not complex. We work with the county to determine the parcels that have been built the last several years, last 5 years, overlay the kids on top of those parcels, and say how many kids are coming from those 2,400 units, and then giving us that calculation. So your calculation's 0.44 kids for every house, or 44 kids for every 100 homes being built, spread over kindergarten through 12th grades, 13 grades. Ken, you want to take over?
Sure.
Sorry, buddy.
All right, so as Lauren said, earlier this year, I drove around, visited some of the new developments that are going on in your district. As you can see, it's kind of scattered across. There's some in all 4 quadrants of your district, all corners. In total, there's 15 projects that are currently active, and that's totaling out to 1,384 units that are included in your forecast. Of those, 631 are apartments. Those are those kind of dots that are in red. There's some in planned in the Wildwood Town Center area, one in the Fenton area. And then, but in total, 46% of the units are going to be in the Eureka High School zone. And that's some of those developments in the Wildwood Town Center area and some new ones in the Jefferson County portion of your district, new single-family developments that are under construction over there. So in total, there's no like crazy numbers here. The most you're seeing is from Pond Elementary, and that's a mix of new single-family detached homes and new apartment units planned. But there's also some in Ridge Meadows and Geki. Yeah, in total, no, there's a little bit happening across your district, but nothing that's really going to have a huge impact on any one zone. All right. So now, again, here's your forecast numbers. As you probably could have guessed or as we foreshadowed, there is a slight but consistent decline going forward over the next 2 years. Right now, you're at 17,477 students enrolled. Looking forward to 2029, we're projecting that to be about 16,000 resident students. You can kind of see each grade going down is the impact from the mobility factor. So in large part, you're not losing students due to mobility. Once you get them, they're pretty consistent staying in your district. The main problem is just that the cohorts you have now that are graduating out are larger. The new cohorts that are coming in just aren't as big.
Natural replacement.
Mm-hmm. And then of the development, any impacts from developments are kind of seen in the overall big picture. So adding in the other students that were not included in the forecast, so we have the 837 students that reside outside of the district. And then calculated separately, we have the 645 VIC students. We separated them out because we understand that program is slowly being phased out. So there's going to be kind of fewer and fewer students as current cohorts move through. So that totals out to right now just under 19,000 students enrolled. Within, so looking at the annual net change, you're losing about 250, 350 students per year. So overall not kind of consistent, but not too significant decline. It's nothing to be like super crazy, like worried about. Not like, as Lauren said, like a fire hose emergency situation. It's just a very slow decline that gives you, as Superintendent said, some like opportunities, some new space that you can use to kind of figure out the best places for the programs that you have. So looking at the overall grades, again, right now you're at just under 19,000 total students enrolled. By 2029, we're predicting that'll be about 17,000 students. And then similarly, for K-5, we're predicting right now it's at 7,700. Right now it's kind of going to stabilize. It's going to go down for the next few years, but then we're projecting that it'll be about stable at just under 7,000 students. And then same, looking at the 6-8, just a very kind of gradual decline of about 1,000 fewer students from 2024 to 2034. You have about 4,600 right now. And then for 9-12, again, just a very, very gradual decline. About 6,500 students down to in 2029 about 6,000. So just about like 100 students, maybe a little over 100 fewer high school students.
You all can
per year.
overlay these
Mm-hmm.
and actually see the wave go to the next grade configuration. That's what's really interesting is you start looking at this. Oh, we should probably expect this in year 5 down in middle school, and this is year 7 in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Start seeing that. That's where the next step will be.
All right, and here's for the math lovers out there. We've got, this is kind of the forecast again at that study area level. We kind of run an individual forecast for each study area essentially. So you can see some of those areas in red. Those are where new developments are being built right now or have like just finished recently. And then those areas in red, areas in orange are also growing, but not by as much. and then areas in the light green or the dark green, which as you can see, make up most of your district. Those are the areas that are in just in some level of decline. And then the areas in gray generally don't have very little population. There's no, so we're not forecasting any change there. And this is that broken down at each grade level, but it's pretty similar across all grade levels. All right, now here's where they are broken down by your the quadrants. So you can see it's pretty consistent for most grades and quadrant zones. You're more or less at the high point right now, with some exceptions like the Eureka High School area. And then there's going to be some schools are going to be stable for the next few years and then decline. But overall, there is going to be some level decline across all grade groups and all quadrants. And then same looking at it by elementary schools over the next few years. Most elementary schools, as those bigger cohorts move out, they are going to start to decline. Though again, some are going to remain fairly stable over the next few years. Some of the biggest ones are in some of those more upscale suburban neighborhoods that just aren't turning over quite as fast. But yeah, overall fairly consistent. Same picture with the middle schools. Some like Crestview, LaSalle Springs, those are going to be stable over the next few years, but are still going to see that same like gradual decline. And then same, again, similar for the high school zones, we're fairly similar levels, and nothing, no declines or anything that are particularly significant or worrying that we've seen.
So reminder, that was resident numbers. Those were resident kids living in their zones. That's why Cameron was able to separate them out by the high schools, because we know high schools don't have elementary kids, but we know that those elementary kids live in that quadrant. Thanks, Cam. So we're going into enrollment now.
All right, so yeah, this is,
So this is by, what is it? It's by 50 percentile, 50% percentile. So if it's below, it's red. If it's above, it's green.
so yeah, again, that,
Pink's in between.
so yeah, again, just the bigger the number, the, it's like dark green, or it's like the smaller the number, the dark red.
Just want to make sure I was understanding.
Oh yeah, no problem. As you can see, the declines are a little bit more, just very slightly more pronounced here, and that's because of the phasing out of the VIC program. Yeah, overall, just very no too significant declines, but still pretty consistent across most zones. And again, same for the middle schools, and similar for the high schools. So again, overall, looking at just the your resident population, again, like you've mentioned, you're at 17,477 students that reside within your district. We're projecting that'll be 16,139 in the 2029-2030 school year, and then 10 years out, closer to 14,836 students. Looking at the total enrollment, Brian and I are at 18,968. In 5 years, we're projecting that number to be 17,142, and then 15,500.
The other thing that we put in a note is the VIC's being slowly phased out. So what was represented as VIC, that's adding to that just difference of change.
So overall, some key takeaways. There's you are gating students in pretty much all of your attendance zones for early elementary grades. So like as cohorts move in, more students that were like potentially being homeschooled, they're going to private school, are moving in, starting to go to Rockwood schools.
They're showing up.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not that heightened mobility isn't sufficient to counteract the overall downward trend. Birth rates, as Lauren mentioned, those are trending downward for your area. And then new single-family homes being built, about 43% of them are expected to have school-age children, but not enough to offset the decline. And then overall, the Rockwood School District is projected to decrease by 7.65% over the next 5 years. Again, nothing too significant, nothing too worrying there. And then 15% over the next 10 years.
The reason why we say that is that you probably already know, we work in other parts of the country, and there's areas of the country that are losing 7.5% annually. We're finishing up a big report for Austin right now, and before we came in 10 years ago, they were projected to be 100,000 kids. Where are they at right now? 78,000?
Something like that.
Yeah, and it's not because kids don't want to go to school there or something like that. It's just a different environment. Not housing's affected it, cost of living's affected it, other things are happening, and they're seeing these dramatic shifts. When we look at this, I said, it's not bringing out the fire hose. I said, we don't need to have the bucket brigade putting out fires. There are some communities like where we are in where I live in Texas, where they're trying to find bond money to build the next school because they just don't have enough space. It's like the island of misfit toys with modular homes everywhere. Modular homes, we know what that is. Modular buildings, we know what that is. They're not mobile after about 5 years. They explode as you take them off the foundations. You all have the opportunity to take advantage of this. And there's another client we talked about, they had the same questions. We're in decline. What he suggested, he said, I think you start talking about other things, of creating opportunities at other campuses that are doing well in other parts of the district. It's a great opportunity because you're not having to worry about not having too many kids. You take care of your customer base that wants to be here, and also build off interest to that. As we're driving in, I'm like, I'd rather drive this way than drive north. It's a wonderful community to be in, and it's easy access to other things. But yeah, I know what it's like around 4:30 trying to get down here. Anyway, I think that you all have a good opportunity, and Dr. King's right. This is not about taking these numbers. We're doing school consolidation in California. They're talking about school consolidation in Austin. 12 to 18 schools being closed in Austin right now. You don't have to do that here. So take advantage of the opportunity, and this is a generational shift that we're experiencing. This is not anything that anybody's done wrong. It's just that our next generations aren't the same as they were with mine and older. It's just not that. They're just not having as many kids, and it's another thing I'm putting on is what's happening in the housing impacts and how's it affected by the current population. The people that are available to buy homes can't really buy homes because they can't finance it. They're still carrying student debt. They don't want to have kids because they're carrying student debt, or they've lived the experience of their parents suffering through the last recession. So it's nothing that we haven't done anything wrong. It's just figuring out how to make lemons out of this, make lemonade. So, any questions?
I have one quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
When you were talking about the 43 or 40.43.
Oh, yeah, your student generation rate, yeah.
On that, I know in Wildwood Town Center, Ellisville, it's a lot of do you lower that number when it's apartments or condos that gets changed? Did I miss that?
Yeah. We have an apartment number, and it's not high.
Okay.
We've been buying some of the apartments, right? It's what is
Yeah.
it, the 40?
There's one that's like $2,000 a month.
Yeah,
where
yeah.
it's
That's
ridiculous.
I drove
It's not
by, I'm like
gonna be-
going, that's a really good looking apartment complex.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not
that's
for families.
Not going to generate.
I'm sorry, I missed that, but I was curious. I
No,
was
no.
like, there has to be a lower formula
Yeah.
number for
There
some
is.
of
Oh,
those
yeah, we
places.
definitely- yeah.
Like I know Wildwood, they're looking at a high-rise condo complex next to the movie theater. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's not going to be
That's-
really family-friendly.
Yeah.
I don't
I believe that's those apartments that are projected in Pond. But yeah, those.
Okay.
even the total number of units don't matter as much, because like you can see those big blue blocks, those are going to generate much fewer students than the blocks of new single-family detached units.
Visually, it looks impressive. Peel it back, you're like, oh, that's 16 kids.
Yeah.
Dr. Kane, this is a question for you. Are we sharing this information with local municipalities?
This is really step one of our communication, I don't want to say package, but kind of mindset at this point in time. I get a very strong sense there'll be a bit of a roadshow that will be happening in the fall, or maybe multiple versions of some degree of roadshow. So it would make sense that this would be a part of that, yes.
Could I ask you to go to slide 16
Yes, ma'am.
and just kind of walk me through so that I'm understanding?
I can see.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah. Help me understand this, because my question is, as we look at this and we look at the mobility of our students, and we're seeing this mobility across grade levels, because that can affect our staffing as we look at numbers of students that move through, if it's going up or down by grade. Is that correct?
Well, it's not significant. So if I were saying, oh, wow, well, so this is based off of kids living in the area. So we're not, so Cindy does a cohort analysis with tables. This is how many kids were enrolled. That helps her understand hiring for next year. This is spatially, this is how many kids live there.
Okay.
Two different things.
Okay.
So Cindy does a cohort through Excel, which that's how
We
we
address that when we're doing our staffing then, Cindy, is that correct?
That's how we used to do it all the time before this happened.
Okay, I just want to make sure I was understanding this.
Well, the neat thing about having doing this with GIS and having the technology, we can start looking at things differently, because when you're looking at things through enrollment can switch like that within 3-4 months based off of just simple things like policy, open enrollment, or a change in curriculum. So, if you start adding things to other parts, those kids that were attending there for that class now have it available in their home campus.
Well, and I was thinking in terms of you could have a school that could go down 15 students, but they could be in 4 different classes, which would only be 1 or 2 students, which may not affect staffing.
Yes.
Because we're still going to still need the same number of staff.
Yeah.
Just because they're down students doesn't mean that all
Correct.
things are going to change. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. So when we look at this, there's a little, again, no, algebra is not involved. So Babbler has the largest number. It has a 13% increase from kids that were there in kindergarten showing up to first grade. So that neighborhood, there are kids there that were there that weren't there in kindergarten. Suddenly, 13% more are showing up the following year for first grade. Well, I was mentioning there's some communities, they have a strong, either a strong Montessori program, or, it's spread out. Like, I'll use Springfield as an example. It has suburban, urban, and rural areas. The rural areas have this peak that shows up at kindergarten, first grade, because what they're doing is they're keeping their kids for a couple of years, and then they're coming into school. It's just because of distance, things like that. In your case, you can tell there's consistency all the way through the line, except for Kellison. Kellison's the one that shows up as an area. If I had no relationship, didn't know the district at all, I would look at it and go, oh, Kellison must be a maturing area. Not enough turnover, it's not regreening yet. Which is another thing that's happening generationally. Not enough, those existing neighborhoods in most communities aren't turning over like they were 12, 15 years. Now no one knows what to do, right? They don't know, should I sell my house? Where am I going to buy that house? Nowhere. So I might as well stay where I am. So.
Yeah, I just want to, first off, thank you for doing the study.
Yeah.
I think it's extremely insightful, and I just want to echo some of the comments Dr. Kane made. I think what we have now here is a forecast. There's no need to panic. There's no need to go out and do something different for next September or August, all right? But we have a roadmap that says, okay, where do we have opportunities now? Much like Carrie and Tammy mentioned, okay, if in an elementary school building I lose 15 kids, I can't change any staffing for that. But maybe I now have an opportunity to add a class I didn't have before. All right, maybe I have the opportunity to shift something. And that's where I think we need to do the due diligence as a board with the administration to be thoughtful, methodical, and planful. All right, we don't need to knee-jerk on anything, but we have a roadmap. And we can say, okay, what are the things to get us 5 to 10 years from now into a better place than where we are today? And we can do that gradually. We can look at what's the right staff turnover ratio, what are the right opportunities, what are some things we can do now that maybe we couldn't do before, but we might not be able to do them for 5 years or 10 years because of the way this looks. And then also we can monitor this baseline against what actually happens, you know, and if we see 2 or 3 years from now that we're tracking right along with it, great. Now, obviously, any study after about 5 to 6 years is going to start waffling a little. Completely get that. But I think this gives us and the community time to digest this and to plan for it. So I think this was well timed.
I refer to it as the tool in your tool belt. Yep. Because you already have somebody that's already doing this internally. It's adding content to what she's building for you all. I know I work with a colleague in Elk Grove, California. She's retired now, but she would take our study, she would do her study, work with the local city manager, and they had some type of projected study on the total population. And she would make this monster of a report of all this different stuff and then start showing it to staff and then having the road show. She would have the annual road show with the municipalities in her district. Because you don't bet on, it's better to place your bets on everything and work on stuff that you know you have an established professional already developing stuff for next year. You have our stuff and start, okay, where else are we tracking? And the neat thing about it, we have the geography of it. So you already know that you have focus areas.
Any other questions before we move on?
I had one, just first a comment. I came into the district in 1989 when we were doing nothing but laying bricks on top of one another and in some cases putting trailers and,
That's right.
and that sort of thing out. In fact, we gained, the year I was hired, we gained 3,000 students and hired 130 new staff. And I will say, honestly, I can't see how this is not a better problem to have than that, because I mean, I was high school band director. I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to what was going on from a bird's eye view, but there's no way they could have been using the methodical, like as Bob mentioned, approach, because it was just, we built a school, it's finally finished, let's move into it. What do you mean it's 123% capacity? And that's kind of the position that we were in. And I think the other thing that it kind of does for us is quite frankly from a financial standpoint, because I know a lot of the talk at that time was how upside down we were in terms of funding that was coming from residential development, because that number was not 0.44 then. It was much, much higher than that. There were kids coming from just about every house and multiple kids coming from some houses. And I remember at that time the quote was that we're upside, the second kid that comes from a house, from a financial standpoint of revenue from that house, we're upside down. So then we're dependent on houses that don't have any students and commercial development, which we don't have a ton of. The one question that I had was does anything in this whole equation take into consideration, or does it even make that much difference as to the relative affluence of neighborhoods, and not just new developments, but just neighborhoods in general, as far as...
It does if you have a large sample of influence. Like when we're doing the student generation study, there's only so many homes that have been built in the window of 5 years. That's a 2,400 good sample. When we start breaking it down by neighborhoods, it's the statistics. You start trying to apply a small sample to a large population. It's going to cause a skew, right? So we can look at it. The ROI isn't there for this. If you're seeing if a larger population of those are happening or new builds are happening, then okay, Cameron, what's it look like? There's been 1,500 of those built in the last 10 years. What's that look like? And then how many are those being built now? They're not. You have speculative homes that are being built on those large lots, but that's few and far between, right? So, and one thing I want to share, and look, I appreciate that we're frozen on the screen right here. The mobility study, it's the relationships that are coming out from those numbers. Those numbers are just, for us, when we see these are just numbers, those represent the fluctuations within that neighborhood. So when I point out Kellison, I make the statement, that must be a mature area because there's no inward movement to that area. It's below 1. I always, in executive sessions, I'll have people close their eyes and think of the best school that people think is the best school, and then look up. And usually it lines with those mobility numbers. And then it's just a perception sometimes is also aligns with that. And I'm sure that I see people smile when I say Kellison. Yeah, it's a mature area. I can say that because I know the numbers. I can say that also because Cameron's driven the district too. But the numbers help back up those anecdotal thoughts.
Oh, I would also think that one also potential reason why you have such high mobility is that the presence of like so many affluent areas, like potentially families with like really young kids maybe can't afford to move here now, but maybe they are like later when their kids are in like middle school or entering high school.
You'll see that number start to show up in that 6th to 7th grade number. Start to see that positive number. That's that in most suburban districts, the numbers will start to taper off. And then they suddenly appear again in 9th grade because there's a parochial school program or strong private school programs that don't go to high school.
Or the opposite can happen too.
Yeah.
It's interesting, like the Fenton pocket, you can you think
Yeah.
about where the starter homes, where the,
Exactly.
So you can kind of see that pocket and where the mobility
Correct.
piece would be from.
And the thing is that the homes that are being built are already in the equation over there under the housing development and the student generation. These are the indicators of the established neighborhoods. Very good stuff. It's cool.
It is
There's
very-
a report coming after this. By the way, there's more. So there's a full report.
More fun maps to dig into and charts and tables.
So I do appreciate this
Yes,
because
ma'am.
I remember when Marquette High School was built, and it was built too small, and they had 3 trailers out in front of it. I see someone in the audience who remembers that, right, Keith? So, yeah. So this data, this information really helps us prepare and do a good job with our facilities and our programming. Thank you.
Thank you for coming from Texas.
Of course,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank
Glad to
you.
be here.
Dr. King? Thank you.
Don't be a stranger. Come back and visit us.
It's a great place to raise
Okay,
kids.
I'll just bring it.
Did you get it? Oh, he's going to get it. Thank you, everybody.
So the next is 8.03, and this is the CSEP update, and we were going to start with a motion for this area. And the motion is to adopt the 2025-2030 Comprehensive School Improvement Plan, CSEP, forward together as presented.
So moved.
Second.
And discussion, and joining us is Mary LePat and Charlie.
And actually, before they dive in, I'm going to just intercede one more time. And
Okay.
we have a number of CSIP steering committee members that are actually in this room at this point in time that Mary will discuss.
I think
That's
one just
okay.
left.
Thank you, Dr. Kane. I appreciate that. We invited our steering committee members to be here this evening. We're so grateful for the ones who were able to make it, and certainly grateful for all of the hours, their dedication to this process, and the hours that they put in. So when I call your name, if you would stand up and then remain standing, please. We have Jack Elsa Lima from Lafayette High School. He'll be a senior this year. Oh, sorry. We lost Jack. Dr. Tracy Wackerly, principal at Marquette High School. Thomas Cook, RNEA president. Matt Coppin from Metro West Fire Protection District. Dr. Keith Kinder, former board member and former district administrator. Oh, okay. Carrie Bacher was a member of the steering committee. And then, of course, we have Cabinet who put in a lot of time, and also Dr. Carrie Skeeters, who led a lot of those meetings and put in a great deal of time as well. And Kate Moore also assisted with the effort. So just want to thank all of them for the time. And it was definitely a year-long, extensive project. So thank you very much. Okay, so we really set the stage for this year with this year's theme, which is we partner to listen, we plan together, and we promise to bring our collective vision to life. That was very purposeful as we started this endeavor last May. And this is a snapshot of the entire process. It involved obviously a kickoff meeting, community engagement meetings, the board student advisory weighed in. We had the thought exchange about the promise. What do we want to promise our children? That was launched at the kickoff meeting and remained open throughout the year. We had a number of obviously the committee meetings that were before and after each of those community engagement meetings. Cabinet certainly met on this topic a number of times. RLC did, both our staff and our RLC parents. President's Forum weighed in, and then Admin Council had many touches on this. And at the end, we had a community survey for both the plan and the promise. And then at the last steering committee meeting, there were some significant changes made to the promise based on all of that feedback. And so it might be a nice, significant, we decided we really needed to put, because the promise looked completely different than when we first put it out to the community, we put it out again and gathered feedback and made some additional tweaks. So, and this is essentially all of the numbers of patrons who participated in those 5 community engagement meetings. We had 4 on each of the goal areas, and then we're counting the kickoff meeting in that as well. The steering commit 7 steering committee meetings with, again, RLC, Parent RLC, and Admin Council, and then the number of course, the board student advisory, and then the number of patrons who weighed in on each of those surveys. And now I would like to share with you a video we put together that really tees up the Rockwood Promise. If you would, click it. Okay.
Here we go.
Hi, how are ya?
What does promise mean to you?
Promise is a word that I've known for years, ever since I was young. Because you always say, I promise this and that. The promise means that you're going to do something, and you're going to do it as well as you can, and that's a promise.
Hope, potential. There's a lot to that for me as an educator. Kids embody promise. Every kid has promise and potential and hope and all of those things. And as an educator, it is our job, and I guess what we do, our calling, to bring that out in our kids.
It means a lot. I think promise means more than honesty as a word.
Words are said so freely and openly that words very seldom hold meaning anymore. But a promise to me means that these words matter, I matter, the loyalty and the relationship that we have together matters.
But what a promise is genuine. It's effectively almost like your word is your bond, is how I think of promise.
I think promises are important because it speaks to the worth of the person making the promise.
Trust is built on it. If you make a promise to do something and you don't follow through, then trust is broken. And without trust, we can't accomplish anything.
You know a tree by the fruit it bears. Our promises bear the truth of who we are.
I've promised myself that I'll do the best I can. I think that's really my goal. And like throughout my senior year, like I've tried to keep the senioritis at bay, absolutely. But like every day I wake up and I try to do the best. And I think that's my promise to myself.
The best promise I've made is I promised to be faithful to my wife and to serve with her throughout a lifetime with our children. I'd also say a promise to my kids to try to be real for my kids, to let them see the behind the scenes of being a teacher, being a husband, being a dad. I always talk about if you mess up, you fess up.
We aren't the community, but we are a critical part of the community itself. And it's really important that we never lose sight of that we always remember that regardless of walk, we're here for all kids. That's community, that's parents, that's first responders, that's other community organizations. It's most definitely families and students and our staff that we all come together and keep what we do as a school district at the front and on the top of every list of what we're trying to ultimately accomplish. And it's a weighty challenge, but it's one that we wake up every single morning to really work to meet. And it's a pleasure to do so on a daily basis. I believe the promises, when kept, bring joy.
So there were many, it was actually wonderful to see the evolution of the promise from start to finish. And there were probably 15 different iterations of the promise. Here's just an early one. And with the feedback, I turned to that. And ultimately, this is the Rockwood promise that was landed on. So we are super excited. And this was really the foundation of the strategic plan, really who we want to be as a school district and who we want to be for our kids. So. And then we go into our goal areas, and I'm going to turn it over to Cabinet to talk about each of those.
Okay. So at the heart of the nurturing learning section is our foundational belief that all kids can learn at high levels. And we mean all. No matter where they are on their learning path, no matter what grade level they are, they can learn at high levels. And it's our job to support that. So you're going to see us focusing on engaging, equitable learning experiences. When we are doing great things in the district, we want to ensure that all of our kids have access to that and that they all have access to a supportive learning environment and things that push their thinking, learning that pushes their thinking, critical thinking, experiential learning so that they see how the world around them connects to the things that they're learning. We're going to focus on their well-being and making sure that they are equipped to learn and they're ready for that when they come here and that we support them. And we want to make sure that our kids have access to varied pathways for success beyond high school. We found during this process that we do a really great job of college prep, and we really want to put some more focus on that career prep and other pathways that kids might want to take when they leave high school. So the four big chunks that we've divided this into is academic depth and complexity. That's that deeper level thinking that we want kids doing, that critical thinking, problem solving, dealing with complex issues and problems in the classroom. We want to make sure that they have the academic mindsets and behaviors to prepare them and set them on track to be able to learn the things that they want to learn. We want to make sure that they have access and future readiness with not only the skills to be ready in the future, but the knowledge that they're going to need. And then a growing area of importance is that digital fluency and purposeful technology integration. So we want to make sure that we're using our technology to create in the classroom, not just to deliver lessons to kids. I'm going to turn it over to Cindy.
Okay, so the fiscal responsibility goal area is where we focus on maintaining our long-term financial stability. We have focus on optimizing our resource allocation, our transparency, diversifying and augmenting our revenue sources, and advocating for policies that are going to support the district's financial health and educational priorities. The focus areas within fiscal responsibility include workforce and enrollment planning, which involves addressing our staffing and compensation challenges and planning for the enrollment fluctuations that we just heard about. Revenue and funding strategies, that includes diversifying our revenue streams, exploring alternative funding sources, and strengthening our legislative advocacy efforts. Budget optimization and fiscal sustainability involves optimizing budget alignment with the strategic plan and with our staffing plans and with our curriculum plans. Evaluating and adapting our fiscal policies regularly so we can keep things efficient and streamlined. Financial transparency and community engagement involves continuing transparency about our financial decision making, communicating that as well as we can. That includes our financial priorities, budget allocations, budget processes, Prop 3 funding. It also includes expanding community engagement on financial matters, where we'll try to use a variety of communication channels to educate our stakeholders on budget decisions and our funding challenges. And technology infrastructure and resource management includes enhancing technology reliability and impact. So we have a strategic approach to our technology investment, maximizing sustainability and cost effectiveness, and enhancing our facility and capital improvement planning so that we have systems for long-term capital planning for all of our buildings, our technology, and our infrastructure.
Good evening. For highly qualified staff, our goal is to remain a destination district, both for our teachers and employees throughout all of our employee groups. The goal being to attract, retain, and support a diverse, highly qualified staff by providing competitive compensation, comprehensive benefits, and professional growth opportunities, fostering a culture of well-being and excellence. Our focus areas for this are focusing on our compensation, benefits, and financial well-being. So enhancing compensation and benefits awareness and conducting a review of our leave policies to ensure they align with the evolving needs of our staff and are comparable with our neighboring districts. We are looking to strengthen employee voice and engagement and advocate for sustainable funding and resources. For employee wellness and support, we're looking to ensure our wellness and mental health programs are optimized, that we are providing concise and timely communication and awareness of our benefits, and optimizing the use of district wellness and benefits funds. For recruitment, retention, and workforce development, we are looking to improve our recruitment strategies for our certified staff and for our support staff, and developing long-term retention and workforce planning. For professional growth and career pathways, we're looking to strengthen support for new and veteran educators and cultivate a culture of growth and support for all of our staff.
The Safe and School and Caring Schools goal area, what I really like about this is the fact that it talks about supportive school community. And if you really look through this plan, it encompasses parents, first responders, all of our staff, and how important it is to our students' development. If you look at this goal area as it goes through, it talks about physical safety. There's a component where students need to feel they are physically safe to learn, but it also explores that mental health, student well-being, for our students to perform and achieve at their highest levels, they need to feel it's a safe and secure, loving, and supportive environment. And so those focus areas we're looking at, the physical safety and security measures. We'll continue to enhance our school safety measures, maintain those strong partnerships with our first responders, and having the, especially the first responder here, and we appreciate the support in creating this promise, and also make sure that our staff is being trained, and that we also have the appropriate staffing to increase that safety and security for our students, our school resource officers, as well as our own district resource safety officers are part of that measure. Getting into mental health and student well-being, we want to make sure we are maintaining those student supports and also enhancing those, looking at our MTSS structures to make sure kids that are crisis or are not in crisis, that are just simply trying to advance and learn, that we can meet those needs. We also want to make sure, from hearing from our patrons, that our students and our staff and our parents are aware of what those support services are and have access to them. We want to continue to build that positive school climate and relationships. Our work with Dignity and Belonging has done a wonderful job, starting with our staff, but we'll also be looking in the future with Teaching with Dignity. We want to make sure we're fostering those relationships not only with our students, but among our staff members and among our schools and our patrons. Now it comes to proactive communication and training. We want to make sure we're transparent, that we're enhancing those communications with our partners, not only that our students and our staff know what's available, but also our parents. What I really love about this is also our prevention and follow-up, the fact that we cut out the fact that we want to make sure students who are either coming out of a crisis or possibly made a bad decision, that we are helping them re-enter to the school, because school is a place where you learn from mistakes, and we get to help them learn from to succeed from maybe difficult circumstances that may be out of their control. And so we're there hopefully to partner with them and even outside agencies to continue that growth.
Okay, so the strategic plan sets the pace for what we're going to do in the next 5 years, and the community weighs in on that, and that gives us the general direction. Now we have to roll up our sleeves and figure out how we're going to do that. And the whole focus of that process is continuous improvement. We look at things from a continuous improvement lens. We look at our data, we look at how things are right now, and then we think about what is it that we want to improve for our students. We talk about the strategies that we're going to use to do that. How are we going to measure those strategies to know that they're making a difference? And then if it happens or it doesn't happen, what are the next steps to make it happen within those 5 years? Everybody really has a role in this continuous improvement process. It may seem as though at this point, okay, cabinet needs to figure out all the particulars and details at this point, but really it takes all of us to do that. And that starts with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed setting the pace for what requirements they have for us in the MSIP 6 process. Then the district sets their strategic plan. The schools get involved by supporting that through their building school improvement plans. Our teachers support that building school improvement plan in their classrooms, and then our families support our students to help us make sure that they reach those goals as well. So how does the strategic plan tie to MSIP 6? So we are at step 1. We just developed the district strategic plan. The next step, which we've already started on, is thinking through what our comprehensive school improvement plan is, and that's where all the details get played out. So we're looking at those goal areas. What will it take to reach those goals in those focus areas? How are we going to measure those? What strategies, what action steps specifically are going to need to take place? And how are we going to pace that out during the 5 years to make sure that work gets done? Step 3 is the building school improvement plans, which tie to the comprehensive school improvement plan. The PLC then in the buildings and the teachers set their teacher evaluation instrument goals based on that building school improvement plan. And then of course the classroom instructional goals and practices come from there. This last week, we had our Building School Improvement Plan Day, where buildings brought teams of teachers to start talking through how they were going to start those building school improvement plans. Since we had those general ideas from the strategic plan of where we were headed, and they had already set some goals from last year that really tie into that they wanted to continue, they were able to start having those conversations. And we started by using that continuous improvement plan, where we looked at our data and we did some problem analysis activities where they looked at what were the causes of those issues with our data and what are some possible solutions to make things better. It was a great conversation in the day. Each building had their own room to go back to and have conversations, and we got to jump around and see what people were discussing, and there was a lot of deep thinking going on that day. It was really fun to watch. All right, that's it.
I do want to add that the website has been updated, so forward.rsdmo.org is up with all of this information as well.
Great. Wow, thank you so very much. Comments?
Well, I guess I'll dive in with some questions if I could. I'll start with saying thank you to everybody who was involved in creating this document and putting this together. It does show a lot of work and it looks very promising. But I like the comment, Shelley, you made that we can engage every student to learn at a high level. So let me flip that around. Is this CSIP engaging all of us as the board, as the administration, as the teachers to be a challenge, or is this a slam dunk? And that's to anybody on the group. Are we challenging ourselves enough on the CSIP?
I would say yes.
Okay. Other folks think yes? Okay. I know we can't make everything a priority. What did we leave off that we shouldn't have? And I'd actually like an answer of that from each of the cabinet members who presented.
I think that was all part of the process. I mean, that was a question we asked along the way, like, what are we missing? And we heard from folks and we made those adjustments as we received that feedback. So I think from day one, we've been asking that question.
So you don't think we have anything that we've left off, for the record?
Or not. Not at this point. This is a conversation, Bob.
But the CSIP is evolving, right? You look at it every year. If we're missing something, you pull it and you add to it. So
That's why you do that year-to-year plan, because whatever doesn't happen, or if we miss something, then next year we can include that. I think it's really important, too, to note that one of the comments that we heard a lot during the feedback process is, but where is this and where is that? And that really gets into the detail of it. So this sets the general pace. You're going to see that detail come out in that comprehensive school improvement plan of what are the specific things we're doing, how are we measuring those things, how frequently are we looking at that data, what kinds of decisions are we making. That's where all of that plays out. So while it may seem very general and broad in this sense, that detail comes out in those next steps.
And that's where your comprehensive school, your continuous improvement model plays in there. So
Yes.
if something isn't working or hasn't worked, or you need to make something even more ambitious, you do that through that process.
Yeah, and things can change. That digital area in particular, we may be, 2 years from now, we may not even have any idea where this may take us. And we're going to need that flexibility to address it and attack it year by year.
Continuous improvement is both quantitative and qualitative when I really think about it. And it's the horizon. The key here is this is the map, because without the map, and like any course will do, it gives us the map of where we are ultimately going to go. I hate to mention 2020 and 2021, but life does have a tendency to happen. And so we have to be able to pivot, but still know that we're moving forward as a school district. That's a very pithy question you're asking, but this feels very holistic in nature, and you've heard all multiple times. That is the key, is how do we get to all for all?
Yeah, I do like a lot of aspects of what everybody has put together here. And I wasn't trying to be rude with my comment, but I do think, as you talked, Shelley, about the continuous improvement nature of it, I think that's very fundamental. One of the things in my very short tenure here, I would say, looking at this from a board level, is there are times, I think, just in the 2 years I've been here, we should have changed our existing CSIP. When we moved down the security path, I think that should have been a formal CSIP change. So that would be my challenge to us as a board and as an administration if we go forward. As we see some of those things, yes, we need to make the change, but then yes, we also need to change our strategic plan and say, yes, this is a big enough event, we need to make an alteration here. This is the alteration we're making.
Well, I think what has happened in the past 5 years, working through the way forward, was there certainly were accountability measures put in place, and we did see the data, but it was kind of, like you said, it was interesting times, and I think we can learn from that and make this strategic plan stronger and more actionable. Dr. Kane sent me well, I think he sent it to all of us, what the school improvement, the BSIP teams worked on, and the process they used, and it's pretty simple, but very impressive and very effective.
It was a great day.
I
have 2 comments, if I could jump in.
I'm going to say one more
Okay.
thing, and then I promise I'll be
Okay.
quiet. Very simple comment. I think the title, Forward Together, is brilliant because it picks up our history, and but yet it moves us forward, and I love adding together. Yeah,
Sure.
So
I think that came from a
together
teacher
means
at
us,
RLC.
Bob.
That came from
That was
RLC feedback.
That came from what?
The title came from feedback at RLC
Oh,
from our teachers.
Yeah. And it
Ready?
translates to our community well as well. I am.
I just want to say, it's a comprehensive document, and been living through several CSIPs in this district, it really is a well thought through, intentional CSIP plan. 2 things I want to mention. One was, I went back and I've studied it very carefully, that it's really exciting that you've included well-being for both staff and students in the process. And you have to go back and you have to see where those are layered in, but they're very intentional. The other one is slides 16 and 18 are the 2 most important to me, because they really talk about that continuous, we can talk about continuous improvement, but you've really emphasized the action and looking at it, going back intentionally, having that accountability, and being really ability to flex that for each building within the district and for the district itself. And so thank you for doing that. I think that that really will keep us moving forward together as a district. Thank you.
And I would just like to add that the board this summer will be working to make sure that our goals as a board align with this new strategic plan, which will segue to the next agenda item as well, because part of that is some of the work that the Advocacy Committee plans to do. But overall, we'll be looking at this document and seeing places where the board's work aligns with the objectives and what work we can do to support each of them.
Well, that's also us stretching. You know, when I said stretching, it wasn't just, I said the board too. So there might be quite a few things we need to stretch on, to step up to the plate on, more than we have in the past, particularly, as you say, in advocacy, to help achieve this, to help execute this plan.
Madam President, if I may. When I think of like a closing quote for this document, it truly is, it's not the voice of one, but it's the work of many. And for example, when you say well-being, both for students and for staff, yes, it was most definitely a source of conversation, but the feedback, not only from staff and from patrons, but specifically from students in multiple occasions, literally didn't whisper, screamed, this is something that we need to see and something that we most definitely need to hear. President Midyett, your comment about Forward Together is very astute, because it absolutely builds on the solid foundation that we've had, and how we will ultimately be going together, not only as a district, but also as a community. And Director Cadigan, to your comment about the future and what's unknown, fiscal responsibility is a perfect example. We heard lots of aha and aw shucks earlier this evening, and it very well could have a direct impact not only on that particular goal area, but other goal areas within the CSIP, and it will be incumbent upon us to be able to pivot. To Director Voracek Warren's comment that's coming in terms of our advocacy conversation. It's why it all has to come together to help move us forward, because any one piece can actually cause not only dominoes, but almost a capsizing of the rest of the work itself. But even the conversation of our steering committee with the promise itself speaks to how truly collaborative and collective this work was. I couldn't be more proud or thankful of the steering committee and for those that provided feedback. Just very thankful for what people have done and very, very excited, as I think you can tell, about what's in our future.
Thank you so much for everyone's hard work on this. I know it's taken a lot of time, a lot of effort, but a lot of collaboration, and I think you guys had fun too as well.
We did, and I've served on these a couple times, and usually by the end of the year, this room is packed in the beginning, and by the end of the year, it's like a quarter of the amount of people that started. It was the same attendance the whole year
impressive.
long. So it was an amazing group with a lot of different voices, but it was great. It was a great committee to serve on.
And I really do like this new promise.
And I'm really glad you used my idea for the video, too.
All right, so I believe unless there's further discussion, we need to take a vote, and I'm going to read the motion again. The motion is to adopt the 2025-2030 Comprehensive School Improvement Plan forward together as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion passes. Congratulations, team. Yay. That's it. Next is 8.04 Advocacy Committee Update. I think we already have a foreshadowing what you're going to talk about.
So Sarah's going to start us off.
Sarah's going to start us.
All right. Yeah, we met on May 20th, and we learned a lot about what had happened in session, but then things just keep happening. So, it's been great. But a lot of the discussion we had was more about fostering the relationships, and so this ties in great with that CSIP plan with our specific legislators and representatives for Rockwood, and really getting more face time with them and build those relationships so that they can know Rockwood, we can advocate for our kids, and kind of looking at some ways that we as a board can do that more, and possibly having like a Rockwood breakfast or a Rockwood lunch for our legislators and inviting them to our district more for events. Just so we can show them all the amazing things that's going on in Rockwood, and they can put kind of a face to the name when they're over there in Jefferson City. So one of the things we talked about.
We definitely plan to be proactive in that aspect. Dr. Haynes shared with us a lot of what has happened in Jeff City so far. So you've heard all of that. We will be particularly paying attention to Senate Bill 68, House Bill 190, so that we can continue to follow the impact that will have on our budgets and our students in our district. We discussed about continuing to follow these legislative updates and their impact on us, and taking it to President's Forum, helping to engage more of our community in what legislative advocacy is and how the community can be a part of that. And so we're going to plan on doing that for this coming year.
And one of the things that we plan to work more intentionally on is enhancing our presence on the website. So right now, the Advocacy Committee does have a website at the rsdmo.org. If you toggle to the Board of Education and kind of hover over that word, you'll see the Advocacy Committee is one of the committees that is highlighted there, and we plan on actually showing which bills that we are tracking through the legislative session, and linking to some information for the community. So this will be on our public website so that community members, staff members, and even students can start looking at what is being talked about in Jefferson City that might affect the public school systems across the state.
Quick question, are we planning to go down to the Capitol again this year? Right. Well, the school year.
Yeah. I think our plan is to participate again in March, assuming it's in the same time frame as we did this year.
I think we just might want to take a look at what's going on legislatively that day, because I felt like they couldn't have picked a worse day for us to go down and try to talk to anybody.
Yeah, there's a lot going on that day. Yeah.
You know, so I'd almost rather go by ourselves on a quiet day when we can actually talk to the legislators than go down on an MSBA day when, if they're all going to be engaged.
Any further information to share? Thank you so much for your work and taking on this big thing. Big thing. All right. Next is proposed agenda for the June 17th, 2025 Board of Education meeting. There it is. Looking good. And future agenda presentations and events to attend. Do you think it would slow down a little bit in summer? Not yet, but hopefully soon. Any other words before I say adjourn? Meeting's adjourned.